The PlayStation 1. Sony's little gray box of goodies. The PS1 is home to some of my favorite games of all time. With a huge selection of games and genres, there is something for everyone. I am going to count down my 10 favorite PlayStation 1 games. Now, this is a personal list, so you won't see any Gran Turismo or driving games. These are games that I love to play, and to this day I still think they hold up. And I would recommend these titles to anyone who is looking for some PS1 games to play. There's only one game per franchise on this list. And like I said before, playing these games is just as enjoyable as it was 10 or 15 years ago. So these are my 10 favorite PlayStation 1 games. Number 10. Crash Bandicoot 3. The third installment in the Crash Bandicoot series, in my opinion, is the best one. It plays flawlessly just like the first two, but adds on a whole lot more. Like the first two games, there are 2D and 3D levels. Stages with vehicles also return, from flying a plane to riding a dinosaur, giving the game a fun variety. The game revolves around collecting crystals to advance to the next stage. There are over 30 levels, and each stage has one boss, each boss fight being unique and different from the last one. And for the first time ever in a Crash Bandicoot game, every time you defeat a boss, you get a special ability. My personal favorite is the bazooka. Crash Bandicoot 3 has a really catchy soundtrack. It's also really colorful and easy to look at. Its only drawback, it isn't very difficult. You'll be able to breeze through it in an afternoon or two. However, there are lots of challenges and bonus stages if you find yourself getting too bored. Every level has a time trial mode, and it can get really difficult getting the best time. Alongside with collecting crystals, you can also collect gems by destroying every crate in the level, and it's a lot harder than it sounds. So if you want to get 100%, it'll take some work, giving a nice challenge to any person playing. And if you have a PlayStation 3, good news! Crash Bandicoot 3 is on PSN for $5.99, and in my opinion, it's worth every penny. Check it out. Number 9. Vandal Hearts. The first strategy RPG I ever played. Vandal Hearts is the reason I fell in love with strategy RPGs, so it has a special place in my heart. Vandal Hearts plays like most strategy RPGs. You have your warrior class with a sword, your archer, and your mage. The usual suspects are all here. However, once characters get to a certain level, they can branch off and learn new spells and abilities. Kind of like being able to use 2 class abilities in Final Fantasy Tactics. The game's battle system is also really in-depth and has lots of variables, with lots of terrain affecting your character's performance, and how each unit is strong and weak against different classes. It's kind of like a mix between rock, paper, scissors, and chess. The game also has a lot of unique situations, from not killing civilians to getting across a deteriorating bridge. The game's story and characters are also very interesting, making you curious to see what happens next. However, this game has some flaws. Its soundtrack is forgettable, and it is very linear, giving you no room to explore. But where this game shines is its complex gameplay and my personal favorite, the blood. It is so awesome watching geysers of blood explode from your enemies while you cut them down. To be honest, playing this game at a young age, it kind of bothered me how much blood is coming out of these people. It's like a scene from Kill Bill. I'm a huge fan of the way this game looks. A lot of detail went into your character's sprites and the battlefields, and the blood just enhances the look. Vandal Hearts is an awesome strategy RPG game, and if you're into strategy RPGs, definitely give this one a try. It's worth your time. Number 8. Tomba. I don't care what any of you say, this game is friggin' amazing. I remember wanting this game because of the box art. A pink-haired guy about to tackle a pig? Awesome. As it turns out, right after I put it in the PlayStation, I had an ear-to-ear grin on my face. Hell, even the company that made this game's logo made me smile. Rest in peace, Whoopee Camp. Tomba is a 2D Metroidvania platformer. You run around fighting pigs and monsters, doing quests for people, and unlocking weapons and equipment. And Tomba is a pretty beefy game. If you want to do all the quests, it'll take a long time to get through. There are over 100 in total. I love this game's look. I know the graphics look outdated, but the colors are just awesome. All the unique and original visuals are really fun to look at. This is the only game, by the way, that I know that has an ass flower in it. That's right, An ass flower. You'll never see that anywhere else. Almost every area in this world has been cursed by an evil pig. The evil pigs in this game are the bosses, and once you defeat the evil pigs, the curses in the areas go away, making some areas that were inaccessible before available. This is a personal favorite of mine. I just can't express how much I love this game. The only negative thing I can say about this game is that if you actually wanted the disc, it's going to cost you up to $100 off eBay to get it. And while I do love me some Tomba, that's highway robbery. Even the game's sequel is expensive, and though I do really enjoy that game as well, it's no Tomba 1. So this is a message to Sony. Please release this for PSN. It's a game that deserves more attention. If you want to make hundreds of people happy, release this for PSN. Number 7. Digimon World. Okay, I know, Digimon is a kid's show. But if that keeps you from playing a video game, you're missing out. Because Digimon World is actually really addictive, and most importantly, really fun. The game begins when you get transported into the Digimon world, and you are given the task to rebuild a city by recruiting Digimon with unique skills and abilities. The story isn't stellar, but it's cool to see the city that you started out expand. And you don't play a Digimon game for an exhilarating story. The game could be described as Dark Cloud meets Pokemon. Dark Cloud from its city building aspects, and Pokemon from its battle system and monster raising. In battle, you don't have 100% control of your partner. You shout instructions, and based how well you raised and trained your Digimon, it will affect how well he obeys you. Training your Digimon is very important if you want to complete this game successfully. There's a really good balance between fighting, training, making sure he gets rest, and most importantly, finding a bathroom. I'm a huge fan of monster raising games. It's rewarding to me when I put effort into something and get something awesome in return. Or if I half-ass something and end up with shit. Literally. I love everything about this game and it's kept me coming back for years. It's a hell of a game with tons to do. If you wanted to do and see everything, it'll probably take you over 40 hours. It's a game I highly recommend to anyone a fan of RPGs or monster raising games. So if you're into those, you can't go wrong with Digimon World. Number 6. Spyro 2: Ripto's Rage. I love the Spyro trilogy for the PlayStation. Growing up, they were some of my favorite games around. But out of the 3, the second one is my favorite. I consider Spyro 2 to be my personal zen game. I can play it no matter what mood I'm in. It's simple, fun, and easy to control. The graphics are bright and colorful. There's over 20 levels, all with their own unique style, characters, enemies, and music. So you never see or hear any of the same things twice, apart from the 3 homeworlds. And did you know that Stuart Copeland, the drummer for The Police, composed the soundtrack for the Spyro trilogy?
You mind not interrupting me when I'm working?
I'm a pretty big fan of this game's soundtrack as well. I have a few songs on my iPod, and if you're into video game music, they're worth a listen to. It's a really nice calm ambient sound. Like Crash Bandicoot 3, Spyro 2 is pretty easy. But if you want to collect everything, it can be a fun challenge. And if you're just looking for something to play, it's a game you can pop in and enjoy every minute of it. It's currently on the PlayStation Store for $5.99, so definitely give this one a try. Number 5. Alundra. What some consider to be Sony's Zelda, Alundra plays very similar to old school Zelda games. You get a bird's eye view of everything around you. You walk around fighting monsters and getting equipment. It's classic. Alundra begins with you on a ship. Unfortunately, the boat hits a reef and you're shipwrecked. The character Alundra gets washed on shore. He's discovered and taken to the village of Anoa. You then learn that many of the villagers have been having horrible nightmares. Early in the game, Alundra learns he can enter people's dreams and save them from their nightmares. Over time, while helping the people of Anoa, you slowly start to learn who is behind what's happening. It's a pretty cool story filled with awesome characters. Especially Jess, he's wicked. The gameplay is a mixed bag between platforming, puzzle solving, and action-adventure, and the game is really hard. Bosses take a lot of hits, and some of the puzzles seem almost impossible. But it's a fun challenge, and beating a hard puzzle can be really rewarding, even though I used a guide for most of them. Visually, the game looks great. All the character sprites are crisp and clear, and the game's got a rockin' soundtrack. A personal favorite is the Village of Anoa theme, and I still hum it to this day. Its story, gameplay, and style are all top-notch. It's on the PlayStation Store for $5.99, and that's a real bargain. Definitely give this one a try. And if you just wanted to try it out, there's other ways to play Alundra. You know what I'm saying. Sorry, it's just like the best quote ever. Number 4. Final Fantasy IX. I know it's not 7, but I would be lying if I said I like 7 more than 9. The characters, story, music, setting, and battle system, everything is great. The battles play like expected. You can have up to 4 characters in your party, each having their own unique spells and abilities. Meaning the main character who's a thief can't use black magic, only the mage can. Just like older Final Fantasy games. I'm also a really big fan on how you learn abilities through equipment. But quite possibly my favorite thing about this game is its look. The atmosphere is great. Going to new locations is always interesting. The graphics are good with some really nice cutscenes. And in my opinion, this game's soundtrack is the best in the series, and that's saying a lot. Like all Final Fantasy games, there are tons of secrets and events you can try and do and see. I know a lot of people are going to disagree, saying 7 is better than 9. And I'm not saying 7 is a bad game or anything. But to me, Final Fantasy IX has a charm that is unmatched by any other Final Fantasy. You can get it on the PlayStation Store for $9.99 and it's totally worth it. If you've never played Final Fantasy IX, definitely give it a try. Number 3. Metal Gear Solid. I can't say anything about Metal Gear Solid that hasn't been said already. When it was released, it was groundbreaking, with lots of memorable characters, a story about nuclear warfare, stealth and action gameplay, and at the time, sweet graphics. Hideo Kojima made jaws drop when this game came out in 1998. Playing it today, the game does show its age, but it's nothing that's game-breaking. It's still an amazing game to play, with too many memorable moments to count.
You like Castlevania, don't you?
From guards following your footprints in the snow, to fighting every member of Foxhound, each with their own unique boss fight that are still very memorable to this day. The stealth gameplay is also really fun and intense. Trying to find a hiding spot where you barely have any life left is really hard and fun to do. My only complaint about Metal Gear Solid is that the cutscenes are very long, and sometimes really boring. I know they're necessary for the plot of the story, but god, some of them go on forever. To me, that's its only flaw, and I can forgive it because it's an absolute blast to play, with lots of intense, enjoyable, and humorous moments. You can buy Metal Gear Solid from the PlayStation Store for $9.99. And if the graphics bother you, you can try and find Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes for the Nintendo GameCube. It's not for everyone, but if you've never played it before, definitely give it a try. Number 2.
Resident Evil 2.
The classic Resident Evil 2. Taking what made the first game great and expanding upon it. Walking around shooting zombies, solving puzzles, and finding out what the hell's going on. It's great stuff. Playing this game at a young age, however, I absolutely hated the game. I could barely make it to the police station. It wasn't until I picked up Versus Books' Resident Evil 2's guide, rest in peace Versus Books, I found out I was playing the game entirely wrong. Having 7 spoonfuls of sugar in my Rice Krispies every morning. Playing this game I was all hyped up, ready to kill everything on the screen. It wasn't until I read the guide that running was actually my best option, saving ammunition for bosses and harder enemies, making it the first survival horror game I ever played. The gameplay is good. However, if you have played Resident Evil 4 or 5, you might be turned off by the controls. The controls have gotten the name Tank Control, and while they are sluggish, they aren't as bad as people say, and if anything, in my opinion, it adds to the game's tension. The only annoying thing in this game, in my opinion, is the puzzles. Not that they're too hard, but they're ridiculously easy. You can be shooting zombies one minute and then solving a puzzle the next, and it's just weird pacing. It's still a great game, and that's my only complaint. There are tons of memorable moments. My personal favorite is the first time you see a licker. If you play this game late at night with the sound up and the lights off, it's a pretty creepy experience. It's pretty atmospheric, and the music's really good too. You can play as 2 characters, Leon and Claire, and there are lots of secrets to find and unlock depending on how well you play the game. Resident Evil 2 was re-released on Nintendo 64 and the GameCube. It's also on the PlayStation Store for $5.99, so it's really easy to find. And my favorite PlayStation 1 game of all time is Castlevania Symphony of the Night. A completely flawless game. A huge castle to explore, lots of unique enemies, huge awesome boss fights, crisp and detailed visuals, a beautiful soundtrack, tons of secrets, spot-on controls, and an armory of weapons and equipment. Symphony of the Night still completely holds up, and it's an absolute pleasure to play. I personally consider this to be one of the best games of all time. I literally recommend this to anyone who likes video games. Sure, the voice acting is horrible, but that's part of what makes it great. Don't hesitate to buy this game. It's on the PlayStation Store for $9.99, as well as Xbox Live Arcade. And it's an unlockable game in the Dracula X Chronicles for the PSP. Of course, there are lots of other great PlayStation 1 games out there that didn't make this list. And you can consider the games shown at the beginning to be honorable mentions. Let me know what your favorite PlayStation 1 games in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching.